Hey there.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks.
How's it going over there? Are you surviving?
Yeah, it's now third week inside, so it's getting the hang of it.
Yeah.
But now it feels normal and you're kind of starting to enjoy parts of it.
Right.
Yeah, like I work also in a normal office or at a university, which is like normal co-located teams for most part, and they're starting to realize, well, this is actually not so bad. We are less stressed, we are running less around, we have more flexibility, it's easier to organize meetings, so you never know.
I think this is going to have, I'm going to just really waiting for the impact this is going to have on all the industries, like just how much easier it is, just the quality of life, the company culture, how are people feeling, you know what I mean? It's going to be a really, really transformative time. I'm surprised Zoom has been doing pretty well. I thought that the video service would be like, just like crashing and like having issues, but I think they've really stepped up.
Yeah, I got a meme from a colleague about you watched Scooby-Doo as a kid, those.
I did a little bit, yeah.
So they're always looking for like who's behind this kind of monster stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like who's behind COVID-19? Doom.
That's so funny. I know. It's hopefully it'll have a good impact. I think that it's been really nice that people have been doing, like, people having concerts online, you know what I mean? Verizon and Twitter teamed up and did Dave Matthews not long ago. So, I was taking video and my partner was like, why are you taking video? And I was just like, this might not happen again. Like all these things that are happening, they could easily happen again, but let's be real. They want to charge for these things. Greed will get in the way. But what a time to be alive that we're going through this. And I mean, it's frightening also, but at the same time, it's like,
many different things could happen. Like, it's a shame for all the small businesses that are kind of just opened, or like we had a great place. I had my favorite coffee shop, and then next to it, they opened a filling station where you could go with your own, cups or whatever you wanted and fill them up with whatever food you needed.
Right.
So, and the coffee shop closed down the first because it's just very small. So I said, there's no way we can do social distances. And then later on, the filling station also closed. So you're kind of, where can I now get my food that is not wrapped in plastic?
Yeah. I heard a great idea of people saying that you should, and if, businesses don't make this an option, but they should start offering gift cards so that like you can purchase now and support them locally. And then when they open, you could use them, which is something that I thought was a really good idea. I don't know how to get that message out to like local businesses, but they should think about if they don't have gift cards. Like,
so that coffee shop there, they opened a web store. But so I got the owners pretty well, and the only reason they opened the coffee shop is because they wanted to share the love of coffee with others. And so for that, you really need to deliver like the real cup of coffee, which, I mean, they could get a tuk-tuk or like a truck and then drive around and deliver coffee like that, but it's not the same, So
shoot. All right, well, give people a little more time. Hey guys.
Hey.
How are you doing?
Good.
All alone?
All alone, yes.
Alone, but with many.
Yeah, I've been doing lots of puzzles.
That's good. I was thinking at the beginning too, like we have one puzzle that with 300 pieces, but the details are very, very small. So it takes me a couple of hours to get it done. And I don't know if the kids want to do it. I just like throw it all in the air. Like, no, I have enough.
Yeah, I started a 1,000-piece one, and it's like all different shades of brown. And it was just like the bottom of the barrel Walmart puzzle. I'm not done yet. It's been like a week.
I was thinking of getting my mom a clear one. I got her milk one year. It was like spilled milk, so it doesn't have any edges, because she loves puzzles. So like now I heard there's like all clear one, all completely clear. So I'm like, I totally want to get that for her. Like, challenge accepted.
That sounds crazy. All clear, so you don't even have any idea of what goes to what. It's just literally puzzles size of pieces. That's crazy.
Completely clear. I like to torment her a little bit.
Yeah, clearly.
Clearly. Hey, Nicholas. All right, so do we want to go ahead and get started?
Yeah, we can. I'm okay.
Let's do it. All right, thanks for taking time to tell us all about building your mentor network. And I look forward to hearing about it.
Thank you. If I look this way, it's because my kids are outside and I'm wondering who's coming in and just making sure it's not a stranger coming in. And also if it gets loud, it's the kids, it's not me. So I did this workshop several times already, face-to-face and online. I'm kind of giving you a very condensed version. So I think in networks, so I think everything happens through relationships or kind of interaction with objects or mostly interaction with people. So that's the way I think, that's the way I analyze data. Because I think, well, that's the way the world rolls. You know, even if you are doing social distance, it's still you're part of a network, you're part of a certain social structure, and this social structure influences the choices that you're making and influences your success or, you know, your failures, if you want to put it like that. So I kind of condensed a couple of slides. So I'm just gonna share them right now. So that's not, so I've done several things. So first I've actually asked people, who do you go to for advice in order to find out, you know, is there common pattern, stuff like that. And I asked people I asked digital nomads, the ones who keep on traveling, I asked people who are kind of fixed, freelancers who worked in a corporation for 5-10 years and then had enough of it, people who were still in companies, remote workers at the end of their career who kind of knew they needed to find a new job, stuff like that. And in generally, people have two different types of mentors, and feel free to just stop me talking and have a question. First, we're asking people for advice because we kind of want to make sense of what is going inside of our head. And we came at a point that we realized, well, I can't solve this by myself. I need somebody who just listens to me babble on about a crazy idea and at a certain point says, you know what, this is, you know, forget about this, or can help me make the idea clearer. Or somebody who just knows very good about, let's say, AVS, for example, Daniel's workshop, that was a clear sign of somebody doing something about, he's an expert and he gave expert advice. So we need people to make sense about what is going on here, and we need people to make sense on what is going around us. And around us, these are the people who are very good at helping you have relationships that are positive in a way, that are energizing, where you can take something out. And then we have people in our network that are good at connecting us to other people. Like they just know, oh, you have this problem, or you have this idea, you should be talking to that and that person. And then there's people kind of more than general advice stuff. So I looked, and this is the network of somebody who has, he worked for a company for a long time in communication, and then he became a freelancer. He's very strong on the whole mental health topic. So I talked with him and I asked him, who do you go to for advice? And these are really the people who he goes to. So you also see the two communities, like LinkedIn and Leapers. Leapers is a community for freelancers. And so every person or every community has a specific purpose. Some people give you ideas, some people help you kind of implement ideas. So when I think about ideas, I don't know if you have the same thing. At the beginning, they're very, what I would call fluffy. Like you can't really, you have problems putting them in words, and it feels like you're talking around the idea. And then over time, you're getting it's getting more solid, and you're able to put them in the right words. And some people are able to deal with this fluffiness. So you can talk with them about ideas that are not well developed, and with others, it's not yet really like they need that you are very concrete with your idea before you can talk with them. Anyway, so different people have different mentors, and every mentor has a different function or has several different functions. So that's one example about how your network can look like. And do I have a second example? No. And I have no information about if this network is good or bad. So I haven't looked at success, you know, I haven't looked at if a network is good for your achieve your goals, yes or no. So now I want you to go through a number of exercises because you're going to be creating your own mentor network at the end of this half an hour. And what you are going to be creating is something that looks like this figure. So I wanted you to take a pen and a paper or whatever you want to take notes on. It can also be done digitally. As long as you can create afterwards this little exercise. And you're gonna have 1 minute to come up with at least 10 names. And these 10 names are people who you go to when you have a question. So this could be a technical question. Let's say, I don't know how to make presentations, or it can be a questions about, you know, advice on how to approach an investor, advice on interview questions, whatever kind of advice you need for your daily life. So if you all are ready to write down something and put on my timer, so you have 1 minute to come up with 10 names. Go. Okay, that was 1 minute. How did it go? You have 10 people? Yes, perfect. So, and now I normally have a couple of other exercises. Like normally people fill out this table, which is already on, I think I shared it once already on the, in the Slack community, but I can put it in there again. So normally you would then, for every person, you would look at, well, what is his or her expertise area, kind of technical expertise area. Then what is the mentor function this person is providing? And then you look at how often do you go to contact them. But we're gonna directly be going to actually be creating this little network. So you have, you know, make this kind of picture. So you put you in the center and you put the two circles around there, the blue, the inner circle, and the orange, the outer circle. In the inner circle are the people with who you talk often. And this is because if you talk with somebody often, there's more trust there. So trust, you know, it's kind of familiarity. You can finish each other's sentences, but you also think similarly, which means that it might not be so good for creativity. So I'm gonna give you, was this clear?
Yeah, so take the people and put them in the inner circle.
If you talk often with them.
Okay.
And the people with who you don't talk often, put them on the outer circle. I give you a minute to do this.
Mom,
Warte mal.
we need
So that was 1 minute or a bit more even. Were you able to place it? Okay. So depending on how it looks like, let's go back to this picture. What you see here at the bottom, where the LinkedIn also point is, you see lots of lines going there, and lots of line means everybody talks with everybody. If this happens, it means everybody has more or less the same information. You know, if you think about the virus, the people who interact with each other, they get infected. And it's the same way you can imagine that people get infected with information. So you're acting in a certain way because of the information you have on. So if you now have this picture with your dots around it, I want that you connect the dots if they are talking with each other, even if you're not present. For example, if I think about the work form team, I know I talk with Book, and I don't really often talk with Dan, but I know that Book and Dan are working together, so I put a line between them. So I want that you do that for your mentor network. And this then tells you, anyway, just do this first. I'm again giving you 1 minute to do this. Okay, your time is up. So now I don't know if somebody wants to show their network, but the point of this whole thing is that, as I said, if you have somebody who you go to for advice and that person doesn't talk with anybody else who you have in your mentor network, the chances that you get unique information from that person is higher, just because there's no interaction going on. So that person is not infected by other information in your network. If you have heard the term of echo chambers exist because everybody's talking with everybody, kind of passing fake news on, like this, passing on the same information within people of the same network. So now this is your basic mentor network. Of course, you can take time and develop it further. Or what you can do is you pick a goal, something that you want to achieve within the next, 3 months, half a year, whatever. And you look at your mentors and you see, okay, what can they offer and who's missing? What expertise is missing, or what mentor type is missing? Do I have somebody with who I can generate ideas? Do I have somebody who actually checks out my thinking and points out all the biases that you have, and you never think about them because everybody who you talk to thinks exactly the same way than you. So that's the basic thing. What I do is, so I don't do this anymore in this kind of manual way. I use Qmo and I create my own network there. When I talk with people, I put them in this, and then I have a kind of over time what I would call a growing social capital. So I keep an eye on my connections and what they're able to bring. I keep an eye on the people with who I talk to, what their goals are, what their aspirations are, with an eye on, do we have something in common, something that we can both benefit later. So that's kind of the quick version of my workshop.
Excellent. Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Thank you very much. So this is what mine looks like. I don't know if anybody can see. I just did it very quick. But I don't have very many people that talk to each other that often. There's only a few in mine, I don't know if you can see it, but only a few lines here, and a couple of those lines go outside into my outer circle. The question I have, so it's just very interesting for me to look at it this way. I don't think I've ever thought about it this way, so I'm really excited about you sharing this. But the question I have is, you had us write down 10 names to start. is there an ideal sort of size of network that we should be thinking about growing? Is 10 enough, or do we need to have 100 people sort of in our mentor network? Or when do we hit a critical mass of both like new thinking as well as mitigating some of the group thinking? Have you found that there's like a number or a range in there?
No, so this is social science, so it all depends. It depends on how much energy it costs you to build a relationship and maintain it. So looking at it from an economic point of view, people are great, but if you don't talk with them, you forget that they exist. So that's why then you have to email them, you have to have a call with them, it takes hour here and there. If you have 100 people in your network, how much time? You know, it is just going to take time. So there's no information about that. I'll say you should have one mentor type, one type of mentor in your you should have one type of mentor type. So of every type, at least one. So no, there's no real answer. There's no number I can give you.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. What about the strength of these? So, or even the length of time that you've known these people. Is there any correlation between like that when you should be building out your network? So, for instance, I have people in my network that I've known for almost 30 years probably. And then there's some who I've just very recently met. Is it good to have that kind of diversity? Again, it probably depends on who you are and what you're looking for, but should we be leaning into the strength of, or I guess, does the groupthink happen more prominently when you've known the people longer as well, when you've been working with them longer? I'm just wondering, like, what is the relationship there?
The better you know somebody. So I say you can meet somebody yesterday, or you could have met somebody yesterday and you just get on directly, and then there's directly a high level of familiarity. So it's the quality of interaction that influences the groupthink. And groupthink is generally seen as bad because you don't dare to point out. So groupthink happens when people don't dare to bring in unique information. So if you notice that in a group, and it's a feeling that you will develop, if in a group decisions are made too quickly without really having been elaborated, that's an indicator of that, like, okay, everybody is aligning too quickly. You're not really discussing the option because maybe you think it's not necessary, but maybe nobody dares to actually, discuss the options. Did I answer your question, or did I talk around it?
I have a question. Writing this out, I feel lucky because recently with Techstars, my personal mentor network has grown. But before that, this list would have been much smaller. And just, what advice do you have for people when they're like, I don't know how to do this? Like, is it joining online group? Like, is it, I don't know. Do you have this kind of like specific advice you give people that are wanting to build a network that don't really know exactly where to start?
Well, you have to be proactive. They're not going to come to you, and you shouldn't see it as it's a two-way relationship. So you should be bringing something into the relationship. So that's why I said you need to be looking at something that you can both share. Like if there's some like a commonality, a common passion, or a common, like I have a problem with writing and you have a problem with talking. Okay, we can exchange information with each other. We can help each other. Because honestly, it's just, if there's nothing in common, like nothing that you share, then you can just hire somebody to solve your problems, Then thing with a mentor relationship, it goes deeper than that. And you have to be proactive, and you have to join communities, and you have to reach out to people. So it's not just enough to join the work from Slack and kind of think, oh, I'm there, everybody's going to talk with me. No, you're going to have to say hi. You're going to have to, when someone says, oh, I had a shit day, it's like, well, why? And invest the time to get to know somebody. And then I think it's also okay to realize, well, I invested time to get to know this person, but there's actually nothing in there for me. And then just leave it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's always hard to come across. It's like, just because you join a group doesn't mean that you get the benefits of it. It's like in Techstars, they always are saying like, give first, because then you'll get more out of the mentor network. I'm just learning that more and more. What was I going to say? Oh, is there science or data behind like how beneficial these mentor networks can be. It's like everybody gets the idea of why it's like you get help from it. I'm just curious. It's like, if you build a network like this, you're this much more likely to be, successful in things you try or anything like that.
No. I mean, economists like to try to put numbers on it and try to find the truth, which I think from a social science perspective is quite hard. Generally, if we are, or the way I present here, the research on mentors is more on becoming aware of your network. And once you know your network, you know who is potentially gatekeeping information, who can bring you into contact with people from other groups. So then you have a visual image of how information flows from one person to another. So again, if you really like the virus for a social scientist, or for this, like I do social network analysis, and this whole social network analysis community is getting all, really excited about the virus, because this is perfect data for us. I know it's kind of, it's not the best time for the whole world, but there's a lots of scientists who are really excited about these opportunities, because we can see how well the virus spreads from person to person, information spreads from person to person. If you know how information flows from person to person, you can use that for your own good. So you can misuse the information or use it for your own good. And what you do with the information depends on your ethical standards. You could be in a gatekeeping position, and you could use that gatekeeping position in order to get, when you're negotiating, in order to get a better position. So then you're using it more in a bad way than in a good way. But that's up to you.
I have a question as well. So in the first exercise we did, writing 10 people that are our mentors, I had troubles to find 3. So that was not very good. So I do know a lot of people. I do know a lot of people in a lot of places. In my specific network, remote work, I know a hell lot of people, but I don't go anywhere for advice. And even the mentors I have here, I think I never ask anyone for advice in my life. Just people with whom I relate and with whom I can exchange some ideas. What do you advise to people that don't ask for advice to mentors? Because I see the value in it, and this is super valuable. And what you said in the end, like the power of following through the relationships, the power of keeping connected. I have 8,000 people on LinkedIn. Of course, I don't connect with 8,000 people. I have like 3 or 4 with whom I keep from time to time business relationships. I do have a big network, but it's not a network with purpose. What would you advise to someone that is maybe having a hard time creating this mentor network because they don't ask for help?
First advice would be to, next time when you're stuck with something, or you're spending too much time trying to solve your own problems, that could be one thing. And it could be because you think asking questions is a weakness. It could be like a pride issue, I can do this all by myself, or I don't want to lose face. It could also be that you have never thought really about the expertise other people have and what they could actually bring. So then it will be spending more time actually going through the people who you know, and then see, well, in what way would they helped me in the past. It could also be that you have a more narrow definition of what a mentor is. I talk about it in a very broad it's somebody who helps you when you have a problem, which could be your mom because you didn't know the recipe, you forgot what to put into the pot. And that would be an advice relationship in my case. And it could also be like a mentor is somebody, you sit down with him once per month, you discuss your goals, you discuss your aspirations. That's another definition. So it could be you think or you want to solve it yourself, all your problems yourself. You haven't yet looked strategically at the people in your network, or you have a very narrow definition of what a mentor is. You can go, let me share the screen. If you go to Open Team or Open Team Info, you can take, it takes your email conversation, which is one way of looking at who do you go to, who do you communicate with. And when we're communicating, sometimes it's just giving status updates, for example, but within all these emails, some of them are actually questions. So if you have problems coming up with names, that could be one way to kind of say, okay, like in a way you're saying, I don't trust my brain, but I trust the data that I have generated through writing emails, and I'm going to ask a tool to help me form my network, and then you can kind of boil it down from there.
Nice. I think I have both problems you mentioned, meaning I haven't looked at it as a strategic way. It just happened to be because I'm very much online. So I just go. And I never had the purpose of following up with the people I'm interested in. So I definitely need to do both.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick too, because Gonzalo, I've had that problem. I have to train myself to remember to ask for help, just because you work in a certain way for so long that it's like even now it's like going through all this. It's like, wow, Darren and I talk about a problem for so long. We're talking, and then it's like, wait, we have mentors, we can ask them too, But it's like I feel like you have to work at it. But I've experienced that as well. Like I'm like, how do I ask for help? How do I know exactly who to ask? And anyway, I think that's a skill too.
Yeah, I think that, it's not the help part. It's just, I ask for stuff to everyone. Like if I know, I was talking with 8Fit, the app for fitness that is growing, and I was talking with them for us, and I go there and I ask, and that's okay. It's just the being purposeful in doing that, like checking this list of people. Okay, in the next 3 months, I will follow up and I will schedule time with them to chat, because things are happening so fast and in my life, and it's just growing like the disease, like the virus, it's growing exponentially as well. And it's hard to keep up with everyone. I think Darren feels a little bit the same. I have people on my LinkedIn reaching out every day. Some are super interesting people. Some are dirt people that nobody cares, and they shouldn't care as well. And I speak with almost everyone, and sometimes it's just hard to follow up. And I have visually 5 or 10 people that I know I should follow up as soon as possible, but I don't do it with purpose. And I think just having a visual list like Katerina shared, and now being able to strategically think about it, I think it will help a lot. So thank you.
Yeah, this has been fantastic. I want to appreciate it's probably time to wrap up, but if you have just one more minute or two, I'd be curious to know your thoughts on how the work from organization can think about facilitating mentorship or doing things like intentionally to help people maybe get into more natural relationships like this. I think that we definitely want to, and we have efforts right now to try to figure out how to do some of that better. But it feels as if everybody is different, and what could we lean into that would generally be helpful for people if they're looking for these kinds of connections? Are there things that we can do from an organizational level, or is it always something that needs to really come from within the person? I'd be curious if you have some thoughts on that.
I think people need to get familiar with each other. So when I jumped for, I think, a good part of 1 year, I wasn't active in the Slack channel. I just read. And then at a certain point, I decided to become active, and I remained active. So then now I'm feeling I'm part of the communities, but it was a personal decision. So you just keep on doing like that, which is one way, but kind of posting questions that like in the Leaper Slack channel, every week there's a weekly question where people then answer, and that helps people get to know each other. What you can also do, if you have specific events within the community where we produce something together, that could help. And it could be a solution for a specific problem. Let's say for Book's parents and their restaurant, if people can come together to create solutions for them. And in this way, we bring our expertise onto the table, and we're getting to know each other. And that's what you want. And then we're familiar, and then later on we can say, hey, we did this work together, and I saw that you were very good at X, Y, Z. So that's what I was.
So help humans connect around things that are natural to connect around, and then through that, we will build relationships that will beget this kind of potential networking or mentorship, because we are familiar with each other. And that's what we need to facilitate, is those connections at just a base level familiarity with each other, and that will beget more of the outcomes. Does that sound about right?
Yes, in some way I need to find out what your expertise is without interviewing you, because that doesn't feel right.
Right. That's brilliant. Thank you.
And I just had one more question. Is LinkedIn still a really good place to foster those relationships, or should you do like an email follow-up? Or because I know I have some people in my network and I want to get more intentional on fostering those relationships and connecting with those people more. Is that still a good place, even if I'm not that close to somebody but want to? Or should I set up coffee dates or things like that, or virtual meetups? Or
I think it also depends on if that person is active on LinkedIn. So how does that person, the other person, perceive LinkedIn? So I'm active on LinkedIn and Twitter, and if you would reach out to me on one of those two channels, yes, I would be willing to continue the conversation. If you do it via Instagram, chances are I'll completely ignore you, because that's not my way to connect professionally. So it's not just your preferences, it's also the preference of the other person.
Yeah, so we have to kind of gauge. I'd have to gauge that. Okay.
And then, as Gonzalo said, maybe the person really doesn't care about you, so it doesn't, it's this, or got 1,000 messages and you got lost. So that's always like the difficulty. Like, how often do you push against, and I really, really want to talk to you, or can you just leave it there and say, okay, that person doesn't want to? It's hard to say.
This has been so helpful. I feel like I need to go do some work. I gotta go connect.
Yes.
I need to connect with other people. I need to be more intentional. I need to think about these things. This has been very informative.
Yeah, it's
Thanks for having me.
Great. Thank you.
Right. Thanks so much. And do you have anything that you want to share with us that you're working on?
I do different projects right now. So I do talent management, but that's kind of more on the public service side, which is strange because you can't fire people, or you don't, you move bad people to a different department, kind of just move the problem somewhere else. So if there's ever like a need for data science, I love to look at it. And as I said at the beginning, I think in networks. So what I showed you here, kind of, I teach that to HR professionals, or there we really do this data-driven decision making. So how to make people decision with taking data into account, and yeah, that's my thing.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for taking time to share this with us, and I hope you guys. Thanks for joining, and I hope everyone has a good day.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Katerina. Bye bye.
Thank you, Katerina.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.